Welcome back, Reds fans. Welcome to the latest edition of Late Night Reds. I'm Skylar Wepker. Tonight, I have Seth with me. Seth, how are we feeling this week? We actually had a better week as Reds fans this week.
We did have a better week. I'm okay. I mean, I'm certainly a little bummed they lost 2 or 3 to the Cubbies again, and certainly last weekend was the weekend they should have at least won 2, if not 3. But this weekend, I think when the offense didn't come to post on Saturday, and then they gave up more runs today, those are kind of you can't blame. There's nothing fluky about those 2 losses except for the fact they didn't hit, but. I guess I'm not too upset, and you're right. I think there is a trending upwardness of this team, although the back of the roster seems to be leaking quite profusely. So,
yeah, it does. But I'd rather lose the way that we lost this series to the Cubs than last series, where feeling good, getting late into the innings, and then just letting the game slip away. And that's really what the last series of the Cubs felt like. Is every game was, man, the Reds got this. This feels great. And then they get to the bullpen, and then that's where things just fell apart. But this week, they've looked much better. They went 3-3 on the week, but winning a series against a really good Kansas City Royals team who have talent up and down the roster. So it felt good. Just, I don't know, like the offense feels like it actually has momentum for the first time like all season, even with the spout yesterday and today. But the offense this week has felt a little more lively, and hopefully a trend that continues.
Yeah, and I think the biggest linchpin of that is Elly De La Cruz. And you and
Absolutely.
I talked. I think I forget what show we were on. I don't know anymore. But we talked a few weeks ago about his struggles there in early to mid May, and a year ago he had hit 208 in May, and he only had the 1 home run and very few RBI at that point, and his slugging was way down. He's had a much better May this year than he did last year, and especially this last week or two. And actually, I think we should send out condolences to him for the loss of his sister. He played through that today, and he hit the home run. But he's really, I think he's really obviously the linchpin. We knew that going in, but as he goes, it seems like that's how the Reds go a lot of the time.
Yeah, we'll get more into Elly, but I think the biggest thing that I've noticed this week and really started in that Kansas City series was the long ball is back, man. I mean, they hit 9 home runs in their last 6 games. Granted, not all of them wins, but 9 home runs in your last 6 games, that gives you a much better chance than, what this offense was producing kind of before that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly as it warms up, they say, although here in Ohio, it's not warm yet. So my family and I are going to go south here in a week or so, and it's going to be quite a shock as far as how hot and humid it's going to be down there. And normally by this time, at least for more than a week or so stretch, we would have felt I can only remember like 1 or 2 really humid days here in central Ohio so far.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's when you really know the ball's going to fly when they're home in Cincinnati. But yeah, I mean, the offense is taking off a little bit, as you've mentioned. The power, you're starting to see a little bit, but they still, especially if Austin Hayes can't stay healthy, I still don't think they have nearly enough home run power in the lineup or on the roster as a whole.
No, I agree. I still think they still need that big thumper, that big bat, the consistent, big guy like, an Eugenio Suarez or something like that. But it just feels good to have that piece of this offense kind of come back and click in. I mean, Elly De La Cruz had 3 of these 9 home runs. Tyler Stevenson had caught 1. TJ Friedel leadoff home runs. I mean, it just adds another wrinkle to this offense that we really desperately needed.
Yeah, Chris Garber and I really were celebrating TJ Friedel the other night. What a run he went on. I know maybe it's cooled off a little bit these last few games, but I really appreciate it. Like, I guess I've tried to remind myself after we got out of kind of that stretch where exit velocity and launch angles seemed to be all that mattered for a few years, where I think a well-rounded baseball team gets it done in more than one way at different parts in the lineup. Now, if we want to debate the number 2 hole for the Reds, then maybe we could. But I think he's doing everything asked of him, literally, because Terry Francona asked him to try to get on twice a game, and he's got a near what was it, 380, I think was his on base percentage as of Thursday night. So he's getting on base, and that's what we need out of a leadoff hitter. And I just think he's everything they need. Now, if they get a guy who's a better athlete or a better outfielder to play center field, maybe he has to go to a corner. But overall, I'm not upset about any part of TJ Friedel's game.
No, I'm in the camp of I think he's the next extension that the Reds should target. I don't think in my recent memory, I don't think we've ever had a leadoff guy quite as good as TJ Friedel. You know?
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I think Chu batted second, I think, because Votto batted third, and they were together a lot. I think if you would have batted Chu or even Votto at the top of the order, getting on base wise, if that's all you're asking your leadoff hitter to do, but getting on base, I think. How do you feel about this guy? Over the years, I think we were so spoiled by Votto getting on so much that it actually shined a negative light on a lot of the other players on the team over the years, because we're like, why does anybody else get on base? And now that Votto's gone, the question becomes, why doesn't anyone get on base with the regularity? Now, not many people lead the league in on base percentage 7 times in a career. In fact, all 6 of the other ones are in the Hall of Fame. So I think there are only 7. But no, it's amazing to me to see him get on base, and it's great. What do you think about Will Benson's outfield play these last few days? Did you see?
Skewed after today's play, but
yeah, yesterday was a little more excusable as far as, like, I know Ryan Friel probably would have run through that brick wall to try to catch that ball, but not everybody is going to do that. You kind of pull up once you get to that corner, especially at Wrigley, as we know. Even though there is a padding there, the foul line is right next to the wall, like almost touching the wall. So the play yesterday, of course, they lost 2-0, and that play only produced 1 run, but you never know, I guess, what would have happened had he made that catch. And then the play today, we had a baseball game. I'm still dressed from that now, coaching my son's team, and we went to eat at Roosters here in town. And we went to eat there, and as I was coming to the table, I looked up and saw him drop that ball, and I was like, ah.
Yeah, it's not even just drop that ball, but not the center. It's the center fielder's outfield. You know, if the center fielder says they have it, you take away, you let the center fielder get it. TJ Friedel was propped up right underneath the ball, and Will Benson comes flying in from the side, like, and the other ding on Benson is he's kind of already on a short leash, and if your bat cools off and you're kind of doing that stuff in the outfield, Terry Francona is going to put you back down in AAA as soon as Austin Hayes is ready. And you don't want that from Benson because he was producing at a very high clip. But if your bat's going to cool off and you're going to make mistakes, I think Terry Francona has proven that there's not a spot on this team if you're going to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, he was already Cleveland fans that I talked to. Let's just say there was a reason he was available there at the end of spring training in 23 when Tito was still the manager in Cleveland. I'm not saying it's fair necessarily that a guy already has a reputation or something, but Terry Francona's gotten results in his career, so this is how he does things, and you've got to prove to him that you can actually get the job done. And obviously Will hadn't done that in Cleveland, and he didn't have any leg to stand on, I guess, early here in the season. Remember, he came up for like one he appeared in one game and went like 0 for 4 with the golden sombrero and was sent right back down.
Immediately sent back down.
Yeah, and you can see numbers. There's numbers out there. If you look up the games he starts in, at one point they were in pretty good shape, like a much better record than their overall winning percentage without him. I think that's more coincidence than anything else. I mean, he's provided some good moments too, but Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels like, take Will Benson's name off of it. This team goes as soon as somebody other than Ellie De La Cruz is able to do anything.
Mm.
Um, you know, sub Will Benson's name for whoever you want. All you need is one other person other than Ellie able to do something at the plate. And I'm not necessarily saying, hit home runs or anything like that, but they help. They help win games. Uh, you know, it just feels like as soon as somebody else clicks, then this team like gets a little closer.
Oh yeah, and I mean it's not. It is like it's easy to say, hey, Tyler Stevenson came back from injury, ramped up a little bit, kind of have maybe a slow start at the plate, and as well as that catcher position was playing offensively before Tyler Stevenson came back, um, that idea that Stevenson adds that extra pop that those other guys
Hmm.
just don't have, um, is valuable. It's super valuable, and you saw it the other day. I mean, he got overshadowed a little bit because Ellie had 2 home runs out there in Kansas City, but Tyler Stevenson 2 nights in a row hit a home run, right? So I mean, he was really doing a good job, and he hits the ball with power. And if you see Tyler Stevenson hit the ball to left center field, he's going to go on a tear because
Yeah.
a lot of times when he wasn't as especially early in his career when he wasn't as locked in, he was flailing the ball to right center something. Now he could get hits that way, but when you see him really hit the ball on the nose, that's when it gets going.
Yeah, and you're right being overshadowed about Ellie because he hit 860 feet of home runs in that game. With one was 450 and the other one was 420 or 430, something like that.
Yeah, 434 maybe 436. The one, I mean, I've been in that ballpark, and I'm telling you, Skylar. Hey, Pat Magooch is here. When when I went to batting practice, we got to the ballpark early. I'd used StubHub or something like that, and I ended up with tickets that could get in earlier. And my college roommate and I purposely camped out there in right field, hoping to get an Ellie batting practice home run. And it's not to say he couldn't have hit a home run. Even this was 2023, but he didn't come close to hitting a batting practice home run in that ballpark. And then you see the game played there, and it's not like Wrigley where the wind could be blowing one way or the other as much. Now, I'm sure that happened some, but it wasn't that night I was there, and I don't think it was there the couple nights the Reds played there. But that place is cavernous compared
Hmm.
to everywhere else in NL Central, at least. And for Ellie to put that ball in the back of the fountains in right center,
The second deck of the
yeah,
fountains.
it just that's having. I sat behind the third base dugout about 15 to 20 rows up, and to look out that far, that's a monster shot. Now that is serious.
Whew. And he's had those kind of throughout his career, but man, if he can get those a little more regularly, man. I mean, like the first one that comes to mind is the one in Milwaukee where he like got robbed on the first home run, and the scoreboard was like he almost had a home run, and then he hit one out of the stadium, and then the next at bat, the scoreboard's like we will be quiet for the rest of the game.
Yeah. Hey, so Tops, they're not doing it this year, but they used to do that home run challenge.
Yeah.
And you get an insert card and a pack of Tops cards, and then you go online, you put the code in, and then you pick the day you think your guy's going to hit a home run, whomever you have. A friend of mine bought like like, I mean, there was like 25 Ellie's because it's random when you buy packs. So
Yeah.
he went on eBay, and somebody had accumulated 25 Ellie, um, and he guessed all these days from the home run. Well, if you want to double or nothing or whatever, you can say he's going to be 425 feet or more. And he picked multiple times and he won. You get a more rare card that way.
Oh,
And
wow.
he won multiple times with Ellie on these home run challenge. And Ellie's one of those guys, man, that like to say he could hit a 400 plus home run, he can. And it's just amazing. Yeah.
Pat puts in here, this team needs 25 Ellie's to be good.
I think that would be
True.
a dynamite strategy. And I would take away what I said about TJ Friedel bringing that something different. If the Reds had 25 Ellys, because you could cultivate pitchers out of
Yeah,
that arm. I mean,
yeah, you absolutely could.
yeah.
But I mean, so we can get back to the team, I guess. Like, it's not all bad as it seems. Like, this team is right around 500, which is, I don't know if any Reds fans remember, but last year or years prior, we were always praying just be 500, get to 500. So to be within striking distance of 500 pretty consistently feels really good. And then look, I looked it up today. The Reds are 5th in the league in quality starts. That's saying something. I mean, these guys are getting it done. They're getting the innings in. Um, well, not today's game, but yesterday's game, to be 0-0 into the bottom of the 8th, or I think it was the bottom of the 8th. I mean, Abbott has been dealing, Lodolo's been dealing, Green's been dealing. Martinez got roughed up today, but he's been dealing. I mean, this pitching staff is one of the best in the league.
Oh, yeah. And as long as they don't have, knock on wood, right, some injury issues, because Wade Miley decided he's going to go look for another job somewhere else. And you've got the injury concerns I know we'll talk about that have already happened. As long as that doesn't take place, it's set up. And it's kind of like that thing where, in a lot of things, like golf's the same way, a soccer game, like whatever you're competing in, if you come out with a specific effort, like every time out, then, or most of the times out, then it's going to line up where you win a lot of games, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, you're going to lose a game 2-0, even though Andrew Abbott was great, or Nick Lodolo was great, right? I mean, it happens. But
Yeah.
if you get that kind of consistently, you get that kind of like output out of your starting pitchers, you're going to win more games than you lose.
Yeah, and that's what they need. They need to win more games than they lose. But to get these kind of inning eaters out of a lot of these guys, I mean, Singer, innings eater, Abbott has been an innings eater this year. To get these guys that eat these innings so that the bullpen can rest up for as much as they need to, knowing that that's probably the leakiest part of this team currently is this kind of back end of the bullpen piece. That really only helps this team longevity wise, like going deeper into the season, being where we want this team to be at the end of the year. A lot of that comes from the starting pitching being able to go as deep as they've been able to.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's great. And I actually, the week or so when they had a really bad time of it was when the bullpen got taxed, because it wasn't happening the way you'd like it to as often. And it just goes to show it can fall off pretty quickly if you let it.
Yeah, no doubt. And so I mean, we can get into the bads. I have a stat here that is probably going to drive you up a wall. Ellie leads the league in 2 stats: plate appearances with 2 outs and no one on, and balls called for strikes. It's so frustrating because it gets back to this team goes as Ellie goes, and Ellie has to be superhuman for this team to be 500. He's not getting a chance to get RBIs other than home runs or anything like that. And when he is at the plate and gets called out or called on strikes that are supposed to be balls, it just makes you want the ABS system immediately. And he's just getting a wrong rub of it, kind of on both ends, both as what his team is able to set him up for, and then just the umps always giving him the worst end of the call.
Well, I think obviously the problem becomes there with how tall he is. And I mean, we've joked about it. Remember, Chris Welsh always said that Adam Dunn should wear the knee-high socks and the pants cut off at the knee so that the umpire can see clearly where his knees are. I don't see Ellie with his swag doing that anytime soon. But it's interesting to see he continues to not get that call. And then we were just bragging, or I was, about the on base percentage of Friedel. And yet again, here we are with that stat you just threw at me. How random is it? Is it a big enough sample size to really be worried? Is it, because odds are if Friedel gets on at a 380 clip, he's going to be on base when Ellie comes to the plate at some point. But
the problem is he's getting on base, and then Espinal's grounding into
a
a
double play. You're right. Yep. That's right. That's rough. That is really rough.
Yeah, the 2-hole has been an absolute problem for this team. I mean, I think I saw the stat the other day that collectively the 2-hole is hitting 180 for the Reds. Obviously, Matt McLain not having the year that we expected or he expected. And Espinal has had flashes of good, but he's been putting into double play. I mean, he grounds into double play more than anybody I can think of.
And it's sad because he was actually, the end of last year, he was playing really well. And he had a stretch this year where he earned that spot. I mean, let's be honest. Like, it's not as if he got put there after just being the platoon player or the utility player we thought he might be, right? I mean, he had played a stretch of 2 or 3 weeks where he was on fire. And I guess, again, Tito has his ways, right? We've seen it multiple times already. I remember when McLain first got hurt and they were putting Dunn or somebody like that in that 2-hole. And it was like, oh my goodness, what are you doing? And he wanted to keep everybody else on schedule, right? He wanted to keep Ellie where he was. He wanted to keep, and I mean, I guess what we're seeing is he's a little more patient than probably I would be, right? I mean, that's just how it looks, because I would probably have already made a change, but he hasn't wanted to yet. And he's happy to run him out there. I was thinking the other day, I would probably look at Lux there against righties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pat Magooch agrees with you.
Yeah, Pat, we're together on that. I think against righties, that's what I do. Now against lefties, I was thinking Steer, the way he's starting to hit the ball. Although if he starts hitting gap to gap power more, like with doubles and things like that, maybe you want him down there at 4 or 5. But it is interesting to me. Pat, I agree with you on that, but you're naming a lot of guys I'd rather not think about anymore. I don't want to think about Corey Patterson. That's a 2 Riverfront shows in 4 days that the name Corey Patterson has been said. Chris Garber had one of our commenters wanted to know the worst outfield ever put out there in our lifetimes or whatever, and he had the one, but Friedel was involved. So I'm like, Friedel's playing well. What are you talking about? But the one with the one we had the other night with Friedel in the center field, but was it Joe and what's the guy?
Hampson.
Yeah. But no, he had one with Corey Patterson. It was pretty bad. Juan Castro, see, that's the thing. Castro wasn't as good a hitter as Espinal is. Castro was great with the glove. But I think Espinal's just probably getting worn out a little bit too. Like,
yeah.
I don't know that. I know he made the All-Star game 1 year, like 4 or 5 years ago, but I don't know that he's used to playing every day these last couple of years. He's been more of a utility guy or a platoon guy. And I'm wondering if he could use a few days off himself, but third base is kind of a problem if he's not there.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that, help is not coming for these guys, with, like you said, third base being thin. Really the only thing you can do is slide McLain to second, slide Ellie to third, put Lux at second. That's all you can do as far as like getting anybody at third base to give Espinal any type of break. Because I agree with you. I think he's just worn thin. He's never had this much playing time in his career, and could use a day off. But there's nobody to go over there. So, I'm just going to run through, like, you were right as far as the pitching depth. The pitching is great. The depth isn't, because you have Louder, who's out for the season. You have Miley, who opted out. Those are kind of our two, like, all right, we got guys in the wings, guys waiting. There's not guys in the wings. There's not guys waiting anymore. And then CES looks like they're parking him in AAA and for the time being. And no Marte updates still.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on. Well, didn't they actually, I think they moved up something because he was doing pretty well, Marte. But he's not anywhere near coming back. I kind of disagree with you on CES. I think they're giving him some seasoning to make sure he's ready to come back, because he didn't play as much last year at all, right? Obviously. And
Mhm.
so I think they're using and he could stay down in AAA. It doesn't have to be a rehab assignment, but I think they're using their allotted time they have, and I think they'll bring him back in the next week or so. I don't. I
I
think they
hope
need.
so.
I think they need that power, and I think he helps a lot of problems there. You could give Steer a day off at first. I don't think I want CES playing third, but he could play some DH. So I think
Yeah,
he'll
I
be back.
mean, I do think he'll be back up. I'm with you in the sense the Reds are not eager to get him back up. They look like they're keeping him there, like you said, to get the seasoning on. And hopefully he's back up in the next week or so. I don't know, especially with I think they said Candy is getting closer, and they're going to put Candy back on this team.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, but outside of that, man, I mean, it's thin. I hope Marte's getting closer, but your pitching depth is thin. Your infield depth is thin. The thing that we constantly talked about having so much depth in, we're all we're thin again. Like we're always thin.
Well, but that's the problem. Even when you think you have depth, but I mean, remember last year, where are they going to play everybody, and then you had fewer than enough. So it is. That's why the Dodgers win. That's.
Yep.
I mean, that the Dodgers fans are complaining about their bullpen right now, and they have 5 relief pitchers that would be closers on almost any other team in the league. Like,
They
not
handle
almost.
six because they just got Diaz.
Well, they did, didn't they? And I saw MLB Network. Greg Gamsinger is like, "Oh yeah, he's going to make a full recovery of his repertoire, and he'll be out there dominating." I doubt it, but also he's playing in a bigger ballpark now, right? I mean, that is what it is.
Yeah,
But he just
yeah,
showed,
bigger ballpark, but a lot more expectation to perform,
yeah.
and that's what I think is messing them up right now is the confidence piece.
Let me ask you something. Hunter Martin a few minutes ago made a comment. He said if Tito wants the top of the lineup set in stone, just move Ellie to second in the lineup in the batting order. I mean, I'm getting a lot of your best hitter should bat set second so that you could get more at bats. A lot of this, a lot of that. Um, I, I don't know. In my mind, still the best hitter bats third, and I think for all he offers and brings to the table, and he may not be a 45 to 50 home run guy yet. I say yet, but he's still your most prolific home run guy. So the idea would be get guys on base in front of him and let him hit home runs, but it's that idea is not coming through. So
Yeah, I would counter with who are you putting in the third spot though?
that's a
Because
problem. Yep.
Ellie doesn't like we've just got done talking about. Ellie has no help in this lineup. I mean, TJ's getting on, but he's immediately getting hit into a double play. Outside of TJ and Ellie, like he doesn't really have a ton of help. I mean, Steer's turning it back on, getting warm again. But it's not enough. And it's not like you have anybody that you feel great about in that 3 hole. Maybe other than Austin Hayes, who's hasn't shown that he's been able to stay on the field yet.
No, and I think a combination of Hayes, Stevenson, and Steer in that 4, 5, and 6 window is going to be the best like protection in the lineup. Not like you talk about help. You could be talking about getting on base in front of them, that kind of thing. Protection in the lineup is a
Mhm.
healthy Hayes, a Steer, and a Stevenson right there. And
Yeah,
that goes back to me saying, well, okay, put Lux in the 2 hole.
I at this point I would be putting Lux to the 2 hole. Uh, I mean, you got to shake it up. Got to do something. Something's got to change because the Espinal is not working, and it's been proving that it's not working lately.
One of those, it's almost like feels like a Yogi Berra-ism. Like uh, Tito doesn't make change. He doesn't change things as often as we would maybe like, But when he changes them, he changes them. You know what I mean? Like whether it's sending you down or benching you or getting you to come up with a phantom injury so you go on the injured list or moving McLean to 8 or 9 in the batting order. Remember they came off a road trip and he moved him down. And they gave his averages a lot on the television broadcast. Well, in the month of April, he was this. In May, he was only 200 or whatever it is. And I'd like to, I guess I want to see what he's been these last 2 weeks and then continue to see him hit the ball. Like he's in a funk. He's digging out of a hole. He's how hard is it to walk up to the plate every game at these ballparks with these huge video boards and seeing those numbers and knowing that, I mean, he could go 3 for 4 for a week and he's still going to be batting like 210. You know, I mean, he's feeling it right now. But
I think it's another guy that's suffering just confidence wise right now. I think his confidence has been absolutely zapped out of him, and maybe it's because of going to the 8-9 hole. But I'm with Tito in the sense of show me that you shouldn't be there, and then we'll make the adjustment. And it's not what he expected on a season. It's not what we expected on the season. But I still would rather Matt McLean on this team than most.
Oh yeah, he's playing
at second base.
He's playing a really good defense. Even, I mean, how many players would let that come out on the defensive side? The struggles at the plate and things like that. And I mean, look, it's not the same regime, but Will Benson played 132 games last year and had like what was it, a 74 WAR or something like that. I mean, they stuck with him because of lack of anybody else to put out there. But if you're going to stick with anybody, you're going to stick with a guy who you believe could be a cornerstone of your organization, going forward. So
yeah, absolutely. I had to look it up. Will Benson was a minus 1.4 WAR last year.
Minus 1.4. What was his OPS plus?
OPS plus of 74.
Yeah. Okay.
And a batting average of a 187.
Yeah. So the things that Matt McLean is going to bring to this team and this franchise for years to come, I'm okay. I mean, give him some breaks here or there. But I think he had a little stretch where he had an on-base streak there going, and he was hitting the ball hard. Like I still think I can see it. And maybe I'm just a fanboy of Matt McLean going back to 23, but I still think it's in there.
I agree. I think it's in there too. We have two more kind of bad things to talk about, and then we can kind of see where we go from there. I mean, the two other stats that I want to call out is that the Reds are second in the league in caught steals and fourth in the league in strikeouts. Those are two kind of things that Tito talked about when he came to take over this team. He said, we're going to be aggressive but smart. We're going to be held accountable. We're not going to lead the league in these kind of statistics. And you're not leading the league, but you're not far off. I mean, you're the Rockies away from leading the league in some of these categories.
Yeah, thank goodness for the 9-50 Rockies. Oh
Crazy.
Boy, that's rough out there. Well, when you see the Rockies lineup and you're like, wait a minute, we had him, and we did not want him anymore. No, Bud Black's probably at home thinking, thank goodness I don't have to be around that anymore, because they didn't get any better when they fired him.
No.
So caught stealing's interesting to me because the first probably 3 weeks of the season, at least at minimum, like, that time in April when it feels like everything is magnified because it's all you've seen. You don't have that much like cushion there to say, well, this has happened over this longer period of time. It felt like the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season, the governor was on as far as even Ellie, right? I mean, like, guys weren't trying to steal. And so to tell me that they're that high up there in caught stealings now after, 2 full months, I'm a little surprised that it's that bad. I will say, like, even Friedel is a good, well, I can't even say I won't even say completely that I think he's a good base runner. He's run into his share of outs over the last several years. He's not your prototypical, like, if you think of Ricky Henderson or Tim Raines as far as leadoff hitters who get on, Marquise Grissom in his prime, like Kenny Lofton. Like Friedel's not that, right? So he's going to steal some bags and he's quick enough, but he's not going to be that guy. And so if Ellie's kind of had this weird thing, have you noticed too? I guess this is where I'll go with it. Have you noticed a lot of like secondary lead type steals, like late breaks? Like that doesn't make sense to me. Like, are you hoping that the catcher freezes because they're not running? I'll just catch it and look at the ball, and like I don't understand what you're hoping for there, because don't you usually want to jump, like to get out there and have a chance?
I think it's more. I agree. I've noticed that a lot of that lately too. But I think that they're trying to disrupt a pitcher in form or in pitching motion more, and trying to use that as something to generate mistakes at the plate to do a hit and run or something like that. I feel like they're leveraging that secondary steal to create some sort of mistake that the offense can take advantage of. But I agree that the catcher is right. The catcher got his eye on you the whole time. I mean,
especially first to second.
Exactly, especially first to second. So it's they're second. The only team that they're behind is actually Kansas City with 22 caught steals. Cincinnati Reds 19. They're tied with Milwaukee and the Marlins and the Nationals.
What about the overall number of steals? What's the tally? Because the Reds were the best in baseball, I believe, last year.
Yeah, they are 6th this year. 55 steals, 19 times caught stealing. They are pretty far behind Milwaukee at 81 and Tampa Bay at 82.
So Milwaukee's right there with this number of caught stealings, but they're ahead of us by quite a bit in number of steals. Joey Caditz is in the house.
Yeah, Joey pops in here. We're going to be 500 all season. I mean, it's going to be interesting for the long haul. I mean, I agree, but also we were begging to be 500 for the past couple of years. I mean, we're usually 10 games out from 500 at this point. So we are improving. We are improved. And I still have faith in Tito. I think you had the comment about it last time, Seth, where talking with a whole bunch of Cleveland friends, but it's usually like June when he gets this team like running. He usually has these floundering springs to see what he's got, and by June, that's when things fire off into World Series.
I think it's still a microcosm of Ellie. I think, remember last year again, he made the All-Star team even after a tough May. And look, as we go into June now, he's way ahead of schedule than he was last June 1st, right? And so I just think he'll help lead this team going forward. And again, we don't know that they have the horses that some of those Cleveland teams did in the pen and even the starters. But at the same time, right now, it is what it is, because we're just like, hey, like Joey said, it's like they're very watchable, because as soon as you get really mad at them, they go and win 2 in a row in Kansas City.
Exactly.
I was so mad last Sunday afternoon and evening. I mean, I don't know, as you and Ben did the show. Like, I would have had a harder time doing that show. But then they play good baseball for a couple of days. And honestly, the 3-2 loss at Kansas City, if Hunter Green gets just a few bounces or a few balls that don't just bloop over somebody's head barely, the Reds win that game.
Yep.
So no, I think this team is going to make us want to watch them most of the time this season, because you can lose a game here or there that you just lost a game, right? And
right
now it's when you go in those stretches where you lose the mindless games that really make you upset. But
yeah, well, I mean, here we're coming into, we have a series against the Brewers. To me, this series feels must win. I mean, must sweep, not even must win. This feels like a
Wow.
must sweep series, just to keep kind of a momentum going because we're in the. You and Joe look up talked about it 2 weeks ago. We're in the gauntlet of their schedule right now,
Mhm.
so it feels like this is a must sweep just to keep pace in that gauntlet, but keep pace within your division after dropping 2 series to the Cubs, a series to the Pirates. It feels like you need this sweep just to keep pace with your divisional record.
You do. I will say the good news seems to be that this team rises to the occasion. Like,
Hmm.
it's not that they're that much better than teams like the Marlins or these other teams that they've lost series to. I think they are better than a lot of them, but they might not be like they're not like LA Dodgers better than all
Right.
those teams. But it just does feel like to me when they play a bigger team or a better team, they seem to bring a better effort. Now, the one difference lately has been the Brewers these last several years.
Yeah.
They've played well against other teams and then they just get torched by the Brewers. And that's why I would say 2 out of 3 would be a good result. I understand what you're saying, but if it wasn't, did you ever see the movie The Three Amigos?
Yeah.
The Three Amigos had their El Guapo, right? The town had their El Guapo. Well, the
Yeah.
Brewers right now are the Reds El Guapo. And the Reds need to overcome El Guapo. And I don't think it's going to be all in one fell swoop. I think it's going to be chisel away at the confidence. Take
Yeah.
2 or 3 this week and then go from there.
Does it feel like it feels like to me that you're right? The Brewers have just absolutely dominated. They've been the El Guapo of ours, but it feels like silent because there's never like like a budding bitter rivalry with
Yeah.
them like there is with the Cardinals or the Cubs and to some extent the Pirates, but like there's never been like that kind of animosity towards the Brewers.
I see what you're saying completely. I mean, I was talking about this the other day. I remember the exact moment that the Cubs flipped the switch on the Reds. The Reds had
Hmm.
dominated the Cubs, and then Anthony Rizzo got the tower buzzed by Chapman, and Rizzo got in a little spat with Votto, and then he was going to take on the whole dugout. And from
Hmm.
that moment on in 2015, that the Cubs decided they're not going to lose to us anymore, to the Reds anymore.
Yep.
And, you could point a little bit toward the brawl with the Cardinals back in 2010. Um, the funny thing is the Reds lost that series, but then they went on a tear
Yeah.
after that. And it wasn't just that they were able to beat the Cardinals, they were just kind of announced themselves. So I've never felt like in this post let's just put it at 2010 going forward. I've never felt like since then that the Reds have ever had it over on the Cardinals, but we just don't like the Cardinals.
Right.
So there's that. And then the Pirates were always Clint Hurdle and his shenanigans and allowing
Yeah.
people to get beaned over and over and over. The Brewers now, the funny thing, it's funny you say that. My wife is a very like she knows who the players are type fan. I mean, even before we had kids, she was kind of into it enough. But I always found it funny who she chose to dislike. And she hated Ryan Braun. Like, even before Ryan Braun got in trouble, she
Even
couldn't
before the
stand Ryan
PED.
Braun. Right. And then he gets hit with the PEDs, and she's like, see, I knew it. And I'm like, okay. So it's funny, in my house, we've had a little bit of anger toward the Brewers for 15 years or so. But I find it interesting because I think you're overall right. What I'm interested too in is Willie Adames was such a key to
Hmm.
them, and they're doing better this last several weeks because somebody was asking earlier, I think in the Slack channel, why is it everybody else besides the Pirates is good in the NL Central all of a sudden? Because the division was kind of left to be like a 85 to 90 win team's going to win it, right? That's what a lot of people
Hmm.
thought. They didn't trust the Cubs yet. I think we know the Cubs are for real now. But even
Yeah.
the Brewers and the Cardinals are doing better than expected at this point. And I don't know. I was hoping that the Adamas loss would kind of come back to bite them because I thought he was kind of a big time cog in their machine the last couple years. And I don't know. They're not a 95 win team this year, but they're still playing better than I expected them to.
Yeah, I think they're still. I think it's just organizational success.
Yeah, they're
You know,
good.
you're building off of or you're riding the coattails of the team before you. Um, and they're not as good as they were. I mean, they've
Yeah.
lost significant hits to their pitching staff, and in losing Hayter and Devin Williams and Burns, and the list goes on and on of all the pitchers that they've lost. But I think you're right. Adames was the big linchpin to that offense. Still a great team. Still organizationally ran well. I would just like to see the Reds have some sort of like vigor to them as far as like when they face the Brewers, because it doesn't feel like they ever have any of like the step up animosity like they do when they play the Cubs or the Cardinals. Like they don't have that whenever they play the Brewers.
I think they need to sacrifice a live chicken at home plate tomorrow. I think that might do it.
That might do it.
You bring up a good point too, because like when Derek Johnson was signed away from the Brewers by the Reds, that was a coup. That was huge. And you kind of thought, oh, good, we got their pitching coach. They're not going to do as well anymore. And they're just as good, if not better, the next 5 years. So it's like, what is going on?
But after that, you got a series against the D-backs who just lost Burns today. Elbow injury, looking like he's heading back for Tommy John, which would be a second Tommy John. So, you have two kind of winnable series. I still think the Brewers one is a must sweep just to keeping pace in your division. But things are kind of looking up. I mean, those are two winnable series against the Diamondbacks and the Brewers, and that puts you above 500.
Yeah, Mount 500's proving tough to climb at this point. You're right about that. Hey, could they just leave Suarez too? Could we just take him with us?
Yeah, just hop on the bus, man. Remember this bus?
That'd solve a lot of issues, I think, with the power.
And third base.
And third base. That's right. No, it's good. Espinal's playing good defense too, though. I struggle with that. Like if you had, again, I would just throw Lux at the 2-hole, put Espinal down around 7 or 8, and go from there. But yeah, we'll see.
So I mean, those are good series for this week, and hopefully have good results. But like looking ahead, I saw someone pose this question on X, and I'll pose it to you. With the success that Chase Burns is having, and the reputation he has behind him, and the excitement and momentum that he has behind him, I mean, people are saying he's the Reds' Paul Skeens. He's got the stats in the minors to prove that. Would you trade Lodolo for whatever hitter and have Burns come up?
Well, my problem is during the season, it's rare that you would see. It's rare you'd see that kind of trade, because the team that wants Lodolo likely doesn't want to give up a major league ready or established player, right? That doesn't happen all that often. Yeah, good. Mr. Juan asked the $1 million question: who would you get for Lodolo? It'd have to be a really good deal. Like I mean, because that's the problem. Like everybody talks about, well, a trade could or should be good for both teams. Okay, but even Sonny Gray for Chase Petty, like we're still waiting for that, and it still might pay off, and they might bring him up and have 5 years of control, and that's, I mean, you talk about organizational success and things like that. For all the things we could say about Nick Krall and the whole thing, they're doubling down and then some on controllable pitchers. And it's Joey Gaditza said, if the pitching wasn't as good as it's been, the record wouldn't be as pretty. That's true. But how many years did we say if we only had pitching, we'd have a better record? And I will give credit where it's due. And so I just don't see, I don't know. I would be upset a little bit if it wasn't somebody that would really, really like move the needle.
Yeah,
And
it's definitely going to be a needle mover.
Luis Robertson. Is Cedric Mullins that guy for you? I don't know.
Not for 1 year.
No, so because Lodolo's got probably what, like 2, 3 years left?
3
He's not arbitration yet. So he'll have 3 more years after this year, I would think. You've got it. You're pulling it up here. Yeah, I mean,
free agent in 2028, arbitration eligible next year.
Yeah, so I mean, his price tag is going to go up, but you still control him well better than paying like $30 million a year for 10 years or something. Which I don't think Lodolo would get that, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The problem, Joey Gaditza said, would Martinez fetch a decent bat? I don't know.
Not for a rental.
No, well, but maybe that's your Mullins deal. But we'd have to. The Reds would have to take a lot of their deal, a lot of the money from Martinez because he's making a pretty penny this year. And yeah, I wouldn't trade Andrew Abbott right now at all.
Yeah, Andrew Abbott's he's near my untouchable list. Just his track record that he's put together on top of like being able to eat innings. I think him, Green, and Ellie are like my untouchables.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess if you told me there was a team that had a fourth outfielder that's just not getting enough time, well, that doesn't even make sense. Like they'd have to have somebody ready to fill in, like you're talking about the Reds have. Like they've got a hot shot first baseman, corner outfielder that's ready to make the leap, but they don't have room for him. Because that's what you're talking about with Burns, right? As far as it is right now, the Reds don't have a spot in the rotation. So you're talking about something like that, a third baseman who's just ready to come up, and probably if they would have, if they would have kept him for opening day, he'd be in the running for rookie of the year, but we already had a third baseman. But now you're doing so well in AAA that, so I guess we're talking this out. That's your only chance is if it's a guy, and you might not get 3 years of control like you have with the Lodolo, so you might be giving up a little bit there if you only have 2 years of control or something like that on the offensive player we're talking about. But I don't even know who it would be. But to me, that's your only chance is if it's almost a mirror image. If it's the hitting / positional player version of Lodolo and Burns. Burns is, chomping at the bit, pounding at the door. Oh, by the way, he's still at AA, so he needs to – I think he was pitching today. So I guess that's my answer. If it's check the list. If it's somebody that will help immensely, you still have team control, and it's at a spot of need, which is right now outfield and third base, pretty much.
The situation that you defined, the first team that came to mind, and everybody's going to hate it, is the Dodgers because they lead the league in pitchers on the IL. They have the depth for any move under the sun. Say Teoscar Hernandez for Nick Lodolo. You get 3 years of Teoscar Hernandez, power hitting outfielder that you desperately need.
I don't hate it. I guess he went back to LA because he loves playing for the Dodgers, which who wouldn't? Yeah. He waited it out. I think he played it brilliantly, right? I mean, he could have gone somewhere else, I assume, this offseason, but he waited till the Dodgers came back around. He did the same thing last year. He had never played for the Dodgers before last year. So I wanted the Reds to sign him last year and this past offseason. So the Reds are 0 for 2. But the Reds have proved over and over that really the only way to get some of these guys is to trade for them. So I might do that.
I would do that.
He's an all-star.
I would do that deal, absolutely.
He made an all-star game last year on a crowded Dodgers lineup. Like he was one of many good players on that team, and he made the all-star team, I think. So
old friend Tim Daniel. This show is so much better since Tim left. I agree.
Tim, come on, man.
I gotta record with Tim after this.
Oh, good. What are you doing? The Cavs show?
Yeah, we got to do the Cavs show tonight.
All right. Are you still doing that weekly?
Yep.
Oh,
Every
that's cool.
Tuesday. So every Tuesday that show will come out for everybody in here
in
who
the
wants
off
to
season.
talk NBA with us.
That's good. Hey, I have one. And it's Cincinnati adjacent. The other day for the show I host for an Ohio State network here in Columbus called Buckeye Huddle. My show is called Buckeye Banter. I talked to Remington Award winner Seth McLaughlin, and he's currently a Bengals rookie. He was an undrafted free agent because he blew out his Achilles before the 11th game of the season this past season with Ohio State. Talked to him in his car in the parking garage at Paycor. And we talked mostly his time in Alabama and Ohio State, but we did talk some about the Bengals. So if anybody would like to check that out, it drops a little after midnight tonight. Buckeye
There you go.
Yeah.
So with that, we can go ahead and get out of here. Before we do, Seth, do you plan on going to any games today or this year?
I want to get back down there. I've been to the one on opening day, and I went to the one at Truist Park to see them play the Braves.
Well, next time you go, use our code Riverfront and get $20 off your first purchase through SeatGeek. I mean, they had an ad on the TV today, 2 tickets for $25. I mean, go to the game on us. So use our code Riverfront through SeatGeek and get $20 off your first purchase. We implore everybody to join our ever-growing family of Cincinnati sports fans through Patreon. It's patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy. You get access to probably the best form of social media, which is our Slack channel, which is just Cincinnati Reds fans getting together, being Cincinnati Reds fans. Not political. We're not nothing. We're just talking ball. Go ahead and give us a like and subscribe on YouTube to catch every episode released, not only Late Night Reds, but also Seth's show for the Riverfront Reds show and the Welcome to the Jungle show. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And please subscribe to our audio version of the podcast on any podcast app of choice and give us a like and review. That really helps us. We want to make this show the best show for Reds fans. So for that, he's Seth Shaner. I'm Skylar Wepker, and we'll see you next week.